If you want to earn an 8-figure salary and become a part of the Crore Club, then this video is going to be very important for you, and also the next 4 videos, because as you know, we have a 5-point action plan, and in these 5 videos, I'm going to pick up each of the action plans and go threadbare into details to ensure that you understand what exactly I mean by those action plans, what exactly you need to do, and how you can make sure that you come out successful in your journey towards the Crore Club. I hope by now you would have subscribed to my channel, and if you have already not done that, then do subscribe immediately. Share this video with your friends and family, and if you like it, give it a thumbs up, and if you have any questions, put them in the comment section. I'll answer them personally. Let's straight away jump into the first action plan. Now we'll do this analysis in 2 parts. In the first part, I'll tell you the fundamentals so that you understand the logic behind this action plan. And in the second part, I will try to divide the implementation into 3 parts the way I had told you in the previous video. What exactly people in the 0 to 3 years experience bucket need to do, 4 to 10 years experience bucket, and 10 plus years of experience bucket, what exactly they need to do, how their implementation would be different as far as this action plan is concerned. So we'll look at these 2 aspects. Now let's try to understand the basics first. Now you would remember that in the first action plan, I had told you that you need to map out the current structure of your organization. Now let's try to understand what is the purpose behind that, what is the logic behind that. Now all the organizations are typically organized in the shape of a pyramid. That's what we have understood already. Now this pyramid would have various layers. Now traditionally, companies used to have many layers, and now over a period of time, some of these layers have got compressed. But depending on the kind of organization you work for, whether it is a traditional organization or it's a new age organization, you would typically find that on the minimum side, you would have at least 5 to 7 layers, and on the maximum side, there are organizations which have 15 to 20 layers also. So it's very important for you to understand that in your particular organization where you are working, how many layers you have to go through to reach the top. And that's why what you need to do is to map them out very clearly, understand them very clearly. Because what normally happens is we only look at probably the next layer where we expect that we'll get promoted to. But unless you understand the complete hierarchy and how the movement happens, how far you are from the top, your journey towards the Crore Club would not be complete, would not be understood properly, because you would at a given point in time be only focusing on your next layer. Yes, you need to do that, but you need to also understand that how many steps you have to cross, because then only you would understand what is your final destination. So that's why it's critical that you understand your organization and then map it out properly so that you know where you are currently and where you have to reach, how far you are from the top. So that analysis is very important. Now, having understood this logic, now let's try to analyze this whole phenomena in the 3 buckets that we have spoken about. So let's talk about the 0 to 3 years bucket first. So you are the people who have just started your career, or you have spent at 1 to 3 years. Now in these 3 years, typically either maximum you would have got 1 promotion and you would have moved 1 layer. But the whole hierarchy, whole distance from the top is the maximum, because you are just starting your career. So that's why it's more about thinking the next 10 to 15 years of your journey where you aspire to reach the top. And that's why the gap is quite wide. And sometimes what happens is when you are starting your career and when you see that, okay, there are so many people who have spent 25, 30 years in the corporate world and then they have reached at the top, you get scared. Or probably you don't even bother thinking about reaching the top. You are more happy being there where you are because you feel that you are just starting your career. And I think it's time to just spend few years, learn things. Yeah, that's good. That should be there. But it is also equally important to keep in mind the complete journey that you have to cover. Because if you don't understand your complete journey, you will not be able to plan each step properly. So that's why even while it may look that it's very far away, the top is not within your reach, try to understand the layers, the hierarchy, the number of years one takes to cross this hierarchy. So it's critical that you don't get scared and still work with people you know within the organization, the HR team, to map out this complete structure that is there within your organization. Now let's move to the second bucket, 4 to 10 years experience. Now you have already covered some part of the corporate journey. You would have experienced some promotions, some role enhancements, and you understand a bit about this game, how movements really happen. Some of you would have reached the middle management level, some of you would be closer to that. So still, while the top may look little far away and a bit daunting, but still you have covered a certain part of your journey, and which has given you some data, some information, some knowledge which will be useful in understanding the future better, future movements better. So map it out in a manner where you very well understand your distance from the top. Because based on your past experience, you have covered some ground, and then you can basically prorate the similar number of years and try to figure out how many years it will take you to reach the top. Now, one caution which you need to really understand and keep in mind. In the initial years of the career, the movements happen faster. So typically in your 4 to 10 years bucket, movements would happen every 2 years, 3 years. But as you spend more time in the corporate world, the time frame to cover each layer would become higher and higher. Sometimes it may go up to 5 years, 6 years. And what you also have to understand that sometimes to make these movements, you may have to go to a different organization, switch jobs. We'll talk about that later in the future videos. But this understanding is very critical, because otherwise I have seen that sometimes people get stuck. They really don't understand this whole game. They feel that the way in the past promotions have been coming to them every 2 years, 3 years, in future also the same amount of time they will take to cross each level. And if it does not happen, they get a bit of disillusionment in their behavior, and they start feeling that they are not equally successful the way they were successful in the past. So that's why it's important to understand this part of the game, where the initial movements would be faster, but the later movements could take more time. And finally, for people who have spent more than 10 years in the corporate world, you're the veterans. You understand your organization because you have spent good number of years in the corporate world. Use this expertise, use this experience to map out the future layers properly, because you are quite close to it. So while in my second video, I had given you the example of how 10 lakhs can become a crore, you would have already be at probably a 30, 40, 50 lakhs. So your journey would be shorter. You need to look at it more closely. And that's why there is a more sharp mapping that you have to do of your organization structure, the layers that you have to cover, because you are much nearer to the top. And that's why unless you really put a sharp focus, understand each of the layers and how the movement happens at those layers, then only you will be successful. Because it will not be about spending more number of years and then getting a promotion. It will be more about probably contributing in a bigger way, enhancing your skills, understanding the real game, the networking part of it. That will only help you in moving towards the top. So your approach towards mapping the organization has to be quite different from the other two buckets, because you have already looked at it more closely, understood it more closely, and need to have a much sharper focus while mapping your organization structure. And lastly, what I want to tell you, and for all the three buckets, that this action plan, the first point of the action plan, is not a one-time exercise. Because while at the starting point you have mapped your current org, the rules would keep changing. It is very dynamic. Things change. It also depends on how the economy is doing, how your company is doing, or when you change a job, probably you have to again redo the whole exercise to understand your new organization. So don't ever think that if once you have completed this exercise, that's it. You don't need to again go back to point number 1. No, you have to probably go back to point number 1 every 6 months to 1 year and update the information, update the data. And that's why, when we come to the later part of the conversation, we'll also learn that how this whole tracking process will work. Because in the implementation plan, I have told you that you should work in a 90-day time frame, right? So as far as this particular point is concerned, the data has to be updated based on how things are happening around you. When you get promoted, relook at the org structure which is in front of you. When you change a job, relook at the new organization. When the economy is doing well, try to rethink the whole structure and the time frame within which one can move. So that's why it's a very, very, very dynamic plan. And you need to have a very dynamic approach, a very agile approach to be on top of it and accordingly react to every event that is happening around you. That's very critical to ensure the success of point number 1 of your 5-point action plan. So I'm sure you would have got a lot of clarity around how to work towards the point number 1 of your action plan. In the next video, we'll pick up point number 2. If you have liked this video, give it a thumbs up, do share it with friends and family, and if you have any questions, put them in the comments box and I will answer them personally. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you very much.